Alright, welcome to Adobe Photoshop CC. In this tutorial we're going to cover the paintbrush tool and the eraser tool. You can see here I'm in Photoshop right now and I have this photo reference here that I'll grab with my move tool and kind of move it around out of the way a little bit. But I've been drawing down below here on this layer 3 here. And with the paintbrush tool, which has the hotkey of B, basically I can use a stylus, and I'm on a Cintiq here, and so as I apply less pressure I get a lighter and a thinner line. Now I can change the brush size. I have a variable sort of dial here that allows me to do that on the Cintiq, but if I want to change the size using the bracket keys, I can do that. Right bracket makes it bigger, left bracket makes it smaller. That works for the eraser tool too, which has a hotkey of E. So if any point here I was like, oh, I want to get rid of this line or whatever, I can come in here and start to erase that accordingly. So yeah, those are the two brushes. There is the brush engine, which has lots of options here. Go ahead and open that up here, and I'll switch back to my paintbrush tool. And you can see here I've chosen this sort of chalk brush 50. There's shape dynamics applied to this with pin pressure, and transfers applied to pin pressure. So if I turn off transfer, what will happen is, it doesn't matter how light I get, I basically get a black line, essentially. So the transfer is what allows you to get that kind of gray versus the black. So very kind of important option in the brush engine. The primarily I have shape dynamics and transfer set to whatever brush I choose, but if you click on a brush tip you can slide through and choose. There's a ton of different variety of brushes here. In the brush engine here you can change the size of the brush, but again you can use the bracket keys. Or in this case in my Cintiq, I basically can just roll with my finger to kind of spin and change the size. There's this option down here, it's called spacing, which essentially you can see it kind of preview down here below. You get kind of like a clustered, like a scattering kind of effect. And if you like that, basically there are some instances where you might want some texturing like that. But typically I like to keep that spacing kind of low so that basically I have a smoother stroke here as I draw with my brush here. So the other thing, you can click on the brushes here, and in here you've got a whole slew of brushes to choose from. You've got the general brushes, which give you some options there. And if you scroll down, you got dry media, wet media, you got special effects, you got these just all kinds of wonderful brushes to kind of play around with and try out anywhere in here that you like. You can just open them up and try them out. This thick to thin ink one is pretty nice. So this gives you a nice kind of ink line. You can see here as I'm drawing away. And I just wanted to share with you like my idea here for this particular image. Actually, let me go back to that chalk brush I liked. And this one comes with some texturing, so sometimes I turn that off, transfer, and make sure it's set to pin pressure. And so now if I reduce, yeah, I should have similar line. That looks good. With this brush, I can do nice kind of cross-hatching sort of lines. But in this composition here, I was thinking of having the bird sort of sitting on top. So if you have references like this, it's really nice to work digitally in drawing. But digital work can be lots of different things when it comes to using the brush tool or eraser tool. So a long time ago, I did this cyborg image here, and kind of zoom in on some areas here. But you can kind of see like this texturing that happens in sort of the mechanical area here. And a lot of that was done by just slowly building up different values of color and shade, and then adding little bits of detail. Also using a few texture overlays and blend modes. Also, I have these zombies which I like to draw and illustrate, and you can see here if I open up, for example, my main ink group here, and I'll hold the Alt key and click on this eyeball here. So we can kind of isolate the inking here, but you can kind of see if I zoom in here, the brush tool gives you tons of options in terms of the thick and thin quality, and you can get some really nice detailed kind of drawing in here, and you can use it to basically create shapes. And essentially that's what I did with all these different shapes. Once I drew out the illustration, basically I came in here and drew out different areas of shapes and shading, and then here's the actual final screen print that actually came from the image. So I actually drew it out and then used a photo transfer sort of ability on a screen where you use photo motion and burn the image in and then print with whatever ink I want. And this is actually an image on paper. I also do 3D work a lot, and this image is a huge, gigantic poster image. It's quite large. And if I zoom in on one of these little bits here, you can see all this is basically made through mesh objects in Maya, but it's a rendered image. And if I zoom in here, you can see these tiny little scratches or broken pieces of, basically a cluster of these cones and cement dividers that are being broken up. And essentially what happens here is, I can select my brush size and then hold the Alt key and select any kind of value I want in here. So if I want, some of these cement dividers to be a little bit darker, I could select like that purple there and kind of break through. And you can see just by applying a little bit of pressure and changing the value here, I can add these cool little cracks here. This is, I'll kind of focus on the area here to show you what kind of exaggerated. This is the area I'm kind of focusing on. And now I can hold down the Alt key and select like a highlight here and kind of come in here and basically, let me just zoom in a little bit more. But I can basically select some highlights from the photo again by holding the Alt key and basically come along here and just kind of nick down or touch up these little cracks and give them little bits of highlight. And by doing that, it gives it a little bit of life and makes it feel like those are real cracks, which are pretty cool. So minus the giant orange circle here, but this is to show you the idea of like how the process, right? But you can see such a large image here, all the detail that's involved in doing that. And there's a ton of little, cracks and scratches and things on here. A lot of actually Photoshop work went into the render after I rendered out in Maya. So those are different things I work on in Adobe Photoshop. Again, really fun, interesting things to do, and you can always draw a bird if you want, which is what I'm doing here. That's the next thing. Let me turn this guy off and turn on the bird for a second here. So yeah, you can basically draw the form however you want and use any kind of references you like. I mean, I like to use references. It's nice to have that ability. Yeah, so anyways, that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the brush tool and the eraser tool. Again, B is the hotkey for brush and E for eraser. Check out the brush engine. Check out all the different brushes available in Photoshop. Until next time, see you soon. Cheers.